on the website. Slide, please. Just again, my name is Patrick Joseph, and I'm the long-term recovery coordinator for the Dixie Fire Collaborative. And the stated mission of the DFC is working to fulfill the unmet needs of Dixie Fire survivors and helping to rebuild the communities of Greenville, Indian Falls, Canyon Dam, Warner Valley, and the surrounding areas of Plymouth County. All programs shall support this mission and purpose, and all who work for or on behalf of the DFC shall understand and adhere to that purpose. Next slide, please. This is our agenda for today. What I was just going to offer was, in case for some that weren't either able to be here in person on June 6th, Friday, June 6th, the County Board of Supervisors held a special board meeting, actually right here in this room, to talk about some of their recovery funding and some of the plans and way ahead. They had other staff members like the planning director, Tracy Ferguson, and their grants manager, Zachary Gately, brief some of those items. So I was simply just going to give a summary of that event in case that was new information for you. I was also going to talk about recent grants that the DFC has funded, and then also some of the potential grants that are coming to the DFC next week. So to talk about a gravel grant opportunity for fire prevention that we're looking into, that the DFC is looking into, that could, help with insurability and things of that nature. Some upcoming summer events, and share out some questions. Slide, please. Okay, so over the last, really the spring, I think in April and in May, the Board of Supervisors articulated what they were starting with as principles and priorities for their, as it relates to their funding and their treatment of some of the recovery projects moving forward. So kind of a quick timeline is in January of 2023, the county received a PG&E settlement just like anybody could or would. That PG&E settlement is to be differentiated from the North State DA's settlement, which was the $17.2 million that went to various organizations in the county, to include the DFC. And it's also to be differentiated from just money that has come in by individuals that have been able to litigate against PG&E from their own settlements, or through a program called DPCR, which is Direct Payment for Recovery. I'll look that acronym up again. But that was something that residential and commercial property owners were able to pursue on their own. And to date, that amount is roughly $46 million of funding that has come into the county based off of that program. But to differentiate all that from what the county pursued was a $7.8 million settlement with PG&E plus their insurance. And we'll talk about those numbers here in a second. As principles go, though, they talked about the value, leverage, and restoration of certain county facilities and programs. And then when it comes to priorities, they've got projects and programs, support recovery and rebuilding projects and programs in the most impacted 2021 Dixie Fire affected areas, to include Greenville, Canyon Dam, Indian Falls, and Warner Valley. Non-county public infrastructure. So these are things that the county doesn't necessarily own. However, it still represents public infrastructure. The number one priority here is the safety center, of which the county is working with the Indian Valley Community Services District to reestablish a fire department, sheriff's substation, quarters for the PDH contracted ambulance. So that's what this is referring to here. And then county infrastructure and losses: rebuild the sheriff's substation, the Greenville Library, Greenville Town Hall, county-owned public infrastructure, and reimburse the county for organizational losses. Organizational losses, what they're talking about right there, is overtime wages. Well, this is one example, is overtime wages that the county sustained during the conduct of the fire for their personnel, everything from department heads to people, driving trucks, operating heavy equipment through the fire, that they want to recoup some of those expenses of overtime and wages that they paid out. Next slide, please. So also at that meeting, Marty Neiman, who is the auditor controller for Plymouth County, she gave an in-depth brief with regard to the insurance funding that the county had received and the PG&E settlement money that they had received. So I'm highlighting a couple areas here in red. So right here, the fund balance that Ms. Neiman identified with regard to the insurance losses, or the insurance, was $4,491,671. The summary total of losses you'll see here, where they talked about the expenses that they had, and then the property damage, the actual property damage, and then the total loss. There is you can see that those numbers don't exactly match up. And from my understanding, again, I'd like to follow up with Ms. Neiman about this, but that was what was identified, and then that was actually what was received in a payout. So it's about $500,000 off. It's like a differential. But this over here on the left, these are the expenses. This is the actual losses that went into their calculation. The Greenville Historic Buildings, the personal business personal property, those were all the contents of these buildings. Everything that was included in the, laptops, photocopiers, paper clips, everything, right? The Greenville Library, that entire building, $758,101. The Mountain Huff equipment, I believe, no, that's not the one. This one, Public Works equipment. That was a grader that they lost, that went up in the fire. So one piece of equipment was identified right there. Next slide, please. And so that was the insurance funding of that $4 million+ that they received in insurance. This is thus far anything that they've committed, and it's $1.5 million that they've committed. The county, have committed to the Indian Valley Community Services District as a contribution to the overall building amount for the CSD's fire department building. So this information is somewhat dated, but the last general number that I think the CSD talked about with regard to the construction of that new facility was roughly around $6 million to build. So the county has looked at that 1.5 to kind of offset the cost of what they feel would be an amount for the sheriff substation, as a sort of almost like a tenant, as if the county is sort of paying into that as a partnered subordinate tenant into that building. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the money that the county received with regard to their PG&E settlement. So the county portion identified here in red is $7,800,127. The county received $10,302,851 right here. If you add up these right here, restricted Cal OES, restricted FEMA, and restricted local, right here, that's where you get the 7.8. So my understanding, and just trying to help kind of make some clarity here, is that these dollars here, that's restricted, that they either, I think they're still waiting to see if they have to pay some of that back, specifically the FEMA money. And I don't know what that dollar amount would be, and I don't know where that stands. I don't know anything about that. I just know that in some of the previous meetings to the June 6th, it had been mentioned a number of times that they may have to pay some of their FEMA money back. So they're holding on to that. But at the end of the day, the county portion is at $7.8 million. This dollar amount right here is pretty interesting. That's the interest that they've earned to date, $757,255. Yes, ma'am? I think it's been since 23. Yeah. Because that's when they received the allotment of money. And Ms. Neiman had a breakdown of column of each of the FYs, the fiscal years. And I'd have to look at it again, but of when they actually got the bulk of that money into their account. But yeah, so that's a significant amount of interest gained at this point. And then the only expenses that have occurred from that fund, that summary of fund 0055, they did have one expense, and that was the county did contribute $10,000 to a feral cat program, which has been underway for a while, for a few years now. But there's a group that has been working on spaying feral cats post Dixie Fire. So that was $10,000 there. Next slide, please. Okay, and so that's kind of like a snapshot of the funding that they gave. One of the things that the county would like to do is that they are they are investigating the opportunity to establish a Dixie Fire Recovery Committee. It would be Brown Act governed because of the money that they're handling on behalf of the county. And they would meet at regular intervals to be able to structure how that money can be allocated to different projects. At that meeting, they did, the supervisors did ask for interested individuals and parties that if that's something that they'd like to be involved with and potentially be a committee member to reach out to their supervisor and at least, leverage that request. So by all means, Kevin Goss, Supervisor Goss, if you'd like to get in touch with him and just indicate your interest in participating in that, I'm sure it'd be all ears. They haven't necessarily established a timeline yet or like an implementation plan just yet. But this is something that they're moving towards, which would help provide, greater oversight, not only the money, but also put emphasis on the different programs and projects that they'd like to undertake. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, a lot of this ties into the long-term recovery plan. And just a little bit of background, the long-term recovery plan really got started in earnest in January of 22 with a variety of organizations participating as in the recovery support function framework. The recovery support function framework established 5 functional areas around economic development, housing and commercial building development, infrastructure, natural and cultural resources, and health and social services. And if some of you may recall, throughout the year of 22 and into 23, there was a variety of community workshops, either held here at the school or with the Taylorsville Historic Hall. A lot of those were led by Tracy Ferguson and some of the supervisors, depending on which entity they were chairing as a working group. And this is where the long-term recovery vision came out, and then the top 10 recovery values that were identified at that point. So a lot of that occurred in 22. It then got refined in February and March of 23, and then with sort of like a final, community engagement piece in September of 23. Next slide. What that led to, and there's copies of these documents, of this document out on the table right there. What this has led to is roughly 21 projects around those 5 functional areas up there at the top. My understanding, because this started in January of 22, at that time, it was sort of like the kitchen sink, right? There was like 155 projects. I mean, it was everything. Like, let's do this, let's do that. And this has slowly gotten down to these projects that you see here. None of this is, like, this isn't written in stone. These are things that can be changed. And I think there's an opportunity for that recovery committee to address some of these and see if this is still something logical at this time in this environment and condition. I think that would be be able to implement the ones that are ready, but also kind of take another look at some of the others that maybe aren't. Yeah, so this document will be created into a much larger long-term recovery plan that the county is working on right now, and they hope to have that out by the end of the summer. I don't want to give a date because I don't know that it's been defined yet, but I know that the county staff that's been working on this has been trying to get it out by the end of the summer of 2025. So, next slide, please. These are more of the projects. Okay. Another piece to the long-term recovery plan, and the supervisor, this was in their overall brief, they talked about the Plumas County Disaster Recovery Coordinator, not to be confused with this job or any other coordinating position. This is a job that in March of this year, the county put onto their HR hiring schedule so they could at least identify it. And then they've talked about their PG&E funds going to pay for this 3-year contract of $440,919 over a 3-year period. So this is a county position. My understanding is that they are still interviewing for this position. No, I did not apply, and I'm not applying for this position. But I know that, I did ask if they've hired anybody. They've not hired anybody yet. They're still in the interview process, which, they flew the position in April, I think, and they've been doing interviews up to this point. And, so next slide, please. Here's just a definition and, sort of rough job description. And then if anybody is interested in applying for this position, or, you can direct them to the county HR website. And it's, the job is listed underneath, sometimes they break it out by department. It's listed underneath the CAO, I believe, the office of the CAO. But you'll see that, since we do not have a CAO right now, but it will report to a county administrative officer or the board of supervisors or the board of supervisor designee, until that person is identified. So that's another part of it. And my understanding is their vision is to, with that Dixie Fire Recovery Committee, that this this disaster recovery coordinator would work with that committee on these things. Next slide, please. Okay, so wildly shifting gears. So that was all county business. That was just a recap and a summary of the June 6th special board meeting, and the supervisors will continue to have meetings to move those principles and priorities and that plan forward over the summertime. So normally we would have a treasurer's report that would provide this in greater detail with regard to the finances. Danny Steyer, our DFC steering committee treasurer, could not be here this month. However, just to kind of catch everybody up, since his last report, these top three, 1, 2, and 3, these are recent grants that the DFC steering committee has funded with other organizations. I'm actually going to start top to bottom. So most recently, Greenville Rotary applied for $7,000 that the DFC provided for the Century Ride. If you recall, on Memorial Day weekend, the Rotary hosted a Century Ride, which had been a bicycle ride that I believe the Chamber of Commerce had once sponsored, and then the Rotary wanted to kickstart it again. They had planned for anywhere between 100 and 300 riders in their numbers. They got 135, I believe, 135 riders, which I'm told is very good for an inaugural ride. Even though, again, they did do it in 2019, it had been a while, been about obviously 6 years. So it took a little bit to get things back up and going, but it brought 135 riders into the county, into Indian Valley for that weekend, which is a pretty big footprint of rentals for Airbnbs, campgrounds, etc. And I know the Grizzly Bite was part of the course, and they were in on the action. I think the Valley Grind to some degree was got a little bit of that. And then the meals were provided right here in the culinary department. The wrap-up race meal was provided here. And so that's what that $7,000 went to, was food and supplies for that race. And they've already gotten good feedback of people wanting to register for next year, and hopefully make that a much larger race next year. So congratulations to the Rotary for a successful event. The steering committee also contributed $19,700 to the Indian Valley Food Pantry. So the Indian Valley Food Pantry, located over here on Mill Street, they often get, most of their food is donated. They work with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, and they get a tremendous amount of their non-perishable dry goods from that organization. Sometimes they have to buy from the food bank. So if the food bank in Northern Nevada, which is a much larger distributor, if they get it donated to them, then they kick it right back out as a donation to smaller food banks. If the Northern Nevada Food Bank has to purchase it, then the food bank has to then purchase it from them. So in order to supplement some of the things that they've not gotten in donation this year, they applied for a grant to be able to actually just go and purchase food items from a couple local groceries. They work with Save More to get more non-perishable food items, and then they work directly with Evergreen to get fresh meat. So ground beef and sausage is what they provide in the food packs for the families here in the Valley. So that $19,700, that'll last them through at least December of this year to be able to make additional food purchases, plus holiday meals as well, where they get hams and turkeys, and they get a pretty good deal from their distributor on that. So anyway, that was something for the food pantry. This third item right here, the Plymouth County Development Corporation. The Plymouth County Development Corporation is the like next to entity of the Plymouth County Community Development Commission. It's a lot of P's and C's and D's and all that stuff. So if you're familiar down on Main Street in Quincy, as you come around from like the pizza place, Leon and Roy's, the post office parking lot, and you come around the bend and you're going towards like Quincy Junction Road, the stoplight there. On the left is the Plymouth County Community Development Commission. They're responsible for handling the low income and Section 8 housing in our county. And they have a set aside nonprofit as well. That group is working with the Rural Communities Assistance Commission, RCAC, to develop a down payment assistance program for the county. So down payment assistance is often couched for like first-time home buyers, and it's unclear right now what that program will actually look like. A down payment assistance program has been successful in other rebuild communities. Like the model that they're trying to demonstrate is one from Paradise. The town of Paradise they had before the campfire a down payment assistance program, but then they were able to enlarge it post-fire to help get new homeowners into Paradise post-fire. So this is that $25,000 is going to work with RCAC to get that program started here in Plymouth County. Plymouth County has been wanting to do a program like this for years, and it just hasn't happened for a variety of reasons. But it was identified in the general plan and then the housing element back in like 2019, and it just hasn't come to fruition yet. So this is seed money to help with that program. Okay. There are two grants that have been requested that the steering committee will be hearing about on Monday. One is from the Indian Valley Community Services District. It's $200,000 for the Greenbelt Park, which is located over here at the end of Hot Springs Road. So there are two baseball fields there, concession stand, and a playground area. This would the CSD owns that park. And they would be in partnership with Greenville Little League, who's contributing, I think, $100,000 to it. And the Indian Valley Recreation and Parks District is also contributing, I think, $100,000 to it. So the goal is to do a full renovation of that park area, specifically the fields. A criticism of the fields for like the softball tournament, the adult men's and women's softball tournament, is that there's like people are more prone to injuries because the outfields need to be redone, and there's all kinds of like turf work that needs to happen to fix like potholes and divots and things like that in the field, so that they can kind of use that as a more attractive feature to host tournaments once again. The other large part of that is a renovation of the concession stand, and then adding dugouts to the west side field. So the dugouts are there, be repurposed from the ones that were at the softball field here. But there still need to be, there needs to be a footing or like a concrete footing in place, is my understanding, and some other upgrades to make those dugouts established there. So that request is coming from the CSD this week. The other one is that the Greenville Rotary is requesting $5,500 for a utility box trailer to hold their equipment from the Century Ride. And they've indicated that that is something that they could lend some of that equipment if there's other races and things like that. The idea of the Century Ride kind of catches on, that if there's other events like it, and some of the materials that they have, like tables, chairs, pop-ups, water coolers, things of that nature, that could be a community resource. So more to follow on that. Next slide, please. Okay, gravel grant opportunity, and I say that there's the potential for this. This is something that there's pretty good history of it, once again in Paradise. But this organization right here, IBHS, so this is the Insurance Institute of Insurance Business, and I always butcher this acronym. I think I might have it on another slide. But what they do in the IBHS, they do a wildfire prepared home certificate. What that can do is actually you can present that to your insurer, and it kind of holds some industry standard clout that you've done the things around your home as a responsible homeowner to make it more defensible and more fire safe. In some cases, people have seen had the ability to either come off fair plan, or they just get reduced premiums on the policy, the existing policy that they already have. Next slide, please.
Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety.
Insurance Institute for Insurance
Business.
for Business and Home Safety. Thank you. So this was a program that we heard about through the Rebuild Paradise Foundation. So our fiscal sponsor is North Valley Community Foundation, and they've worked a lot with this group as well. And so Rebuild Paradise started this last year, and what they did is really to kind of set up a simple program whereby, next slide, please. I think I can show it here. You can see that, here's a home that has, like grass and things like that right up against their house, maybe some bushes, etc. And then that 5-foot combustible zone, 0 to 5 feet around a home, that's zone 0 with regard to defensible space. By simply putting in gravel, like a gravel ring all around the house. So that IBHS, they've done test after test after test. And, it's embers getting close to that zone 0 zone, increases the percentage that a home will go up by, exponential percentage points, right? But if it's clear, it's clean of anything that's relatively combustible, then the likelihood goes way, way down, right? So that's a place to start, right? And so the idea is that this organization, they've provided up to $500 in a voucher to a homeowner that gets a 10-yard truck full of gravel, dropped in their driveway. With this particular program, the homeowner is then responsible for spreading the gravel and then following up in a timely manner that the gravel's been spread, and here's a picture, and then no problem. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I'm not sure. But what if you have a deck that I will go around?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's still permissible because just like the side of the house or the trim or anything like that, a deck would still, as long as you're coming 5 feet off your deck, right? And it would also depend, like, go back a couple slides. For this group right here, when they look at like a wildfire prepared home, they look at all the types of materials. So it depends on like the materials of your deck. Is it just straight up wood, or is it some type of composite, or what have you? The Rebuild Paradise organization, my understanding is one of their grant guidelines for this is that you already stamped off wildfire prepared home, and we haven't investigated that yet if that's a requirement that would need to be in this particular opportunity. Trying to make it as accommodating as possible to achieve that sort of, like, imagine if neighbor after neighbor after neighbor after neighbor after neighbor kind of did this, right? And then now you have a whole block of more, not, it's not eliminating all risk, but it's mitigating some risk, right? And that's the thing. It's like a layered approach of multiple things that are being done and not just one. So, but that's a good question, and that's something that we need to investigate. And that's why I'm just kind of sharing this now is like,
curious because mine is wood.
Yeah.
My big house. But Tammy says that stuff that doesn't burn.
yeah, that's good. Yeah. There's a lot of different things like, this organization, they had on their website, they have a demonstration of a video, right, of a fence catching fire that separates homeowner A and homeowner B, right? And then the fire travels along the fence, and then it gets to the T of where they both have a fence that kind of adjoins their property line, that runs perpendicular to their homes, and it spreads left and right. And then one home has a wood gate that's attached to their house, and the other one has a metal gate that runs close to the house, right? So the one with the metal gate, the fire just kind of stops like right there, whereas the wooden one continues to burn up against the side of the house, right? So it's just a demonstration to show, like, just a fix like that, like with one homeowner just replacing the type of gate that they had. Alleviated that initial risk of. So there's a lot of, I would recommend going here just in general, just to,
So they might have somebody come out and look at.
yeah, exactly. But for our purposes, what we're looking at right now is, just to see if this is something that could work here. And if it's something that we can maybe partner with another organization, just, brief this idea to the Plymouth Fire Safe Council underneath their mitigation programs. They have a lot of, fuels reduction and hazardous trees reduction and chipping and, underburn. And, is there the potential that something like this could fall underneath their mitigation platform? And, no answers yet, no one picking this up, but if you have any other good ideas around this stuff, for those of you that are in the insurance industry, by all means, let us know. It's just something that we're trying to figure out how to make this work. Next slide, please. You can, here's some examples of what they did in Paradise. And, this is kind of the foot stomper right here. So, well, here's a wooden deck right here, Ken. There you go. When homeowners are rewarded with affordable policies or good discounts, compliance for the non-combustible zone goes way up, right? So it's one of those things like if we could test it out, and at least get a proof of concept, and if it's something that's working. I didn't put it up here because it's not my story to tell. But this group in Paradise, they identified a family who was paying just exorbitant annual fees and insurance. And then they were able to do all this, and it brought it down tens of thousands of dollars. And the reason that they in Paradise even started this to begin with is that they felt that they were doing a lot of the right things, like right out of the textbook of defensible space, and so much had burned around where new home construction was going on. It's like, well, if we're doing all these, we're following all these recommendations, but we're still not seeing it. Why is that? So they invited Mercury Insurance to come and actually, walk, like you see it with their own eyes, and not just put a zip code into a computer program and say, well, you're in the red zone, so sorry, And that Mercury Insurance started writing policies right then and there. Their chief operating officer was there, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, like, yeah, I can insure this." Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of, that would be the idea. I believe this group is hosting an event in July that I plan on going to on insurability to see if there's something that we can bring back and see if that will help at all. So anyway, more to follow on this. Next slide, please. Again, shifting gears wildly. I should have better transition slides, Taylor. This is information PG&E. This is road construction information from PG&E with regard to lane closures and road work that is occurring with regard to undergrounding, their underground cabling. So I think everybody's pretty aware of it on Highway 89 here of the traffic stop, I'm guessing. Oh, well, that one's different.
Oh.
So when you're first stopped there by like Norberg Lane, like right there, that first one, or Standard Mine, that where they have, when you stop there, all the way down to the grade, PG&E has been doing their undergrounding. Then you have the Caltrans work on the grade.
Where that big thing is.
Where that big thing is.
And that's for deers to go through?
That's the rumor. Is that's for, it's a wildlife tunnel, yeah. That's yeah, yeah, to allow, yeah.
That's pretty big for a culvert.
That's pretty big, it's pretty big, that's a lot of water, so, but this is just some basic updates, from PG&E. I don't have it on here, it's easy enough to Google. Something I'd recommend too with regard to power shutoffs. PG&E has a generator transfer switch program. And I would just do exactly that. Just Google PG&E transfer switch. And it's a wait list. You put in your name and address on a wait list, but they have a program to where they'll come to your house, to your main panel, and put a transfer switch on your panel. So if you have a generator, you can plug right in there. Have you done that?
I haven't done it for PG&E, but yeah, I did. I need someone to set that up for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know how responsive, I mean, I don't know really what that, but I'd heard about it. They briefed it, PG&E briefed it last fall. And it's a program that I just saw another blurb for it, and I asked our local rep about it, because I had done the same. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But
So what does it do? Turn off?
so it's a way so that you can, I don't know if you run a generator and maybe you just, do you already have like a Generac or something like that? Okay, so this wouldn't apply to you. This is, yeah, so like if you had a standalone generator that you wanted to, would want to plug into your home as opposed to, you know, sometimes people just run an extension cord
Right.
and plug in like a refrigerator or something like that.
There are running cables everywhere.
Yeah.
So just plug it into the house system.
Next slide, please. Okay, so here's some events that are occurring over the next month. July 4th in Taylorsville, there'll be a pancake breakfast at the museum, with museum and 4-H, a parade, and then the Silver Buckle Rodeo in the afternoon. I think it begins at 1 p.m. And then I still believe that Lisa will be doing the Crescent Country First Saturday Market on July 5th. And then, of course, we've been working on Gold Diggers for some time now. July 19th, Saturday, July 19th, here in Greenville. Pancake breakfast, parade, vendors, car show, and much music and much more. So if anybody is still interested in helping out, there'll be a meeting at 6 p.m. at 127 Crescent Street, Suite 2 at the DFC office this Thursday at 6 p.m. One of the things that we still need to identify are any volunteers, people that want to help assist with different events and or activities. So if you know of any individual people, that's great. Or if there's like an entire organization that wants to contribute something. So I believe that the Rotary Club will be helping with some of the traffic control with regard to the parade. That's an example of that. But if there's if you know of an organization that wants to help maybe do some cleanup, that's always a fun one. Just to kind of, you know, just many hands make light work. So that would be helpful. And just, you know, an extra set of hands here or there to help make this festival a success. And then also on that same day, July 19th, I believe the junior rodeo will be occurring at the rodeo grounds in Taylorsville simultaneously. So that's going on during the day there. The music, by the way, goes at 8 p.m. Here by the spot. So things will definitely cool down by that point, and should be a pretty good event in the evening to come out and celebrate. Next slide, please. The streetscape. So you may have noticed all the different like kind of planter areas along the sidewalks. The streetscape committee is looking for again, volunteer help, organizations, individuals, whomever, sort of like if you think of sort of like an adopt the highway type of idea. This would be sort of adopting a couple of these planters and just doing the basic maintenance. Basic maintenance is really just weeding. My understanding is that the water is provided by the CSD, so the irrigation systems that are there, that's run by the CSD. But just the basic upkeep and maintenance and sweeping around it and things of that nature, maybe once a month, an hour or two, just to keep it looking nice. So Leanne Trammell is the point of contact for that. She said that I could put her phone number up here. But if you're interested in helping, yeah, there's a couple blocks of these going really from the corner of Main Street and 89, really all the way down to past the school here. So if you got some spare time, you want to help out, please do. And thank you. All right. So we'll do some share outs real quick. And I think we have a guest with us from the Forest Service. You're more than welcome. You can stay there if you'd like to come up and just say hello. And tell us anything about, yeah, welcome.
Thanks. Hi, y'all. I'm
Here. I'll give it my.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lee Ellen Johnson. I'm the new district ranger for the Mountain House Ranger District for the Plumas National Forest. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm Lee Ellen Johnson. I'm the new district ranger for the Mountain House Ranger District for the Plumas National Forest. I just got here a couple weeks ago, so I probably don't know more answers than questions at this point. But I have a couple updates that I asked our staff to prepare for me today to give to you. Anything else, I might have to just research and get back to Mr. Joseph here with some answers. But I'm happy to be here. I came from the southwest region of the Forest Service, which is New Mexico and Albuquerque, New Mexico and Arizona. So I'm still kind of in a transition mode of moving here to Quincy. I'm based in Quincy. But I'm just thrilled to be here and get to know these community groups and what issues are important to you. And hopefully next time you see me here, I'll be in a uniform that I'm still waiting for its arrival. And maybe just be better prepared for questions and the things that are important to you. But I look forward to working with all of you and seeing you around the communities. The couple updates I have here. For the North Canyon, we have some meadow restoration polygons identified within the North Fork project area, and the Sierra Institute will continue to lead that effort. The meadows include Round Valley, Long Valley, and Ohio Valley. Surveys and potentially some chainsaw thinning may occur yet this season at Round and Long Valleys. Also for North Fork recovery, it's near a decision. That's part of our NEPA process that we have. And the Mount Howe Ranger District has started doing some recon for that project to develop some treatment plans. And we have funding for a lot of that North Canyon reforestation work. And also for North Canyon recovery, we've began layout of Round Valley, trail sections in the Mount Jura. Did I get that pronunciation right? Is that Jura? Okay, thank you. Non-motorized segment, but we don't have funding identified for that yet. So those are the updates that I have for today. And again, look forward to learning all about this community here. Thank you.
We'll put down July 19th.
I put it right there in the corner.
Oh, yeah, the YouTube bookshelf.
Right, there you put it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and yeah, welcome. Welcome to the area, and yeah, and anytime you want to come back with additional information of what you just mentioned, but if there are new and noteworthy things from the Forest Service, always happy to hear them. Okay, anybody else with a share out? I know it's kind of there's a lot going on today, so it was tough to find outside presenters for today, but definitely wanted to give a recap of the work that the Board of Supervisors and the county staff is working on with regard to their recovery pieces, because it definitely affects everything that we're doing here, as well as just an update on the recent granting from the DFC to those other organizations. Next slide, please. Are there any questions?
When is your next meeting?
Good question. If the next opportunity to do a meeting would more likely be in August. Because Gold Diggers, that is Gold Diggers, that's normally when we would do it. It'd be that Saturday. But that would be a conflict, I don't think anybody would want to come to this meeting in lieu of going to get. We did last year. Last Gold Diggers, we went bi-monthly. Yeah. I'll say that the volume of information of things as it relates to the fire recovery, it's not as just not as frequent as it was in the year or 2 or 3 after. And things that have been either planned or at least not even planned, but like they're still kind of like a concept. That's still what they are. Like when you look at those 21 or 22 projects, a lot of them are still just ideas that are going to take, a little bit more movement from a champion organization like the county. And it's not a criticism. It's just, they've gotten to the point where they've identified their principles and priorities. And now it's at some point it's time to, get to work on some things. And I know a lot of people I know that's the main frustration. And a lot of private individuals either try to work on their house or their business. And that's moving at a faster clip as it often does compared to public entities. Another one that you should hopefully see here soon is the Greenville Rancheria. So their plan check, I asked about it yesterday, and I know that it's at least moved through one part of the plans getting approved. So they can go and put out for bid. That was supposed to happen in May. So last August, they applied for a special use permit for the area. It got approved in November. The county identified that they, as a building department, could not adequately review the plans because of the amount of technical aspects as being a medical and dental clinic. There's a company that they hired to do that. They, of course, had to put that out into a contract as the county. They had to secure a contract and then pay a outside entity to review those plans. That has taken the time that it's taken. And the Rancheria, a representative from the Rancheria had said that they were aiming for May to put their construction project out for bid. I just don't know that they've gotten back approval yet to actually secure their permit from the county. But that would be a huge thing because that was one of the reasons why between North Valley Community Foundation and the Dixie Fire Collaborative, there's been $1.2 million allocated to the Greenville Rancheria. North Valley Community Foundation has done $600,000 in a 0% loan. Dixie Fire Collaborative has done $300,000 as a 0% loan and $300,000 as a grant to equal the $1.2 million. That money has not been touched yet because it was sort of last in, first out. And because the Rancheria was uncertain about its own insurance settlement and its PG&E settlement. It may actually come to pass that that money that has been committed to the Rancheria will never get used. Like they may not even need it from us or North Valley Community Foundation because they may get way much more through their insurance or their PG&E claim or not, right? So it's just, there's still uncertainty there. And until that moves, it's like, it's a head scratcher, right? With where some of that money could be reallocated to help with some of these other projects. But you know, you look at their sign, they were thinking about breaking ground in 23, 24, and here we are, it's 25. So
The waste station, do you have any timeline?
no, I mean, I know that they received their permit. So a couple of the Yep, so they're working and they're gonna work all through this year. I think they're trying to get that open by next year. You know, so I mean, I know that they got their permits there and they're in the construction process now. The other one is St. Anthony's Church on Bush Street. You can see that they've laid their foundation. And they'll be getting that church up this year. So that's two larger entities that are building. No. Nope. Not at this point.
Did we hear the Legion?
So the Legion is still working on their, I know that the county is working with them to get their occupancy permit. The holdup was in their landscape design. Is at my understanding, and this is a layman's perspective, so I'm not an expert here. It has to do with the water consumption for their landscape plan. It has to be below a certain threshold, and then the plants and whatnot all have to be like drought resistant plants. So they're just that design and that irrigation system needs to be approved for the landscaping to be done. But I think the county may be able to do an occupancy permit without their landscaping being done. I think there was also an issue with the square footage of their area that was going to be landscape designed. And that also had to be above or below a certain threshold. But I know that between the general contractor, the county, and the Legion themselves, they're all aggressively working to make it so that it can be available for gold diggers for pancake breakfast.
Yeah, well, they've committed to the pancake breakfast, so.
That's right. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplishment. It's got to happen.
It's gonna happen.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
No.
Thank you all very much for coming. I know there's a lot going on today, so I appreciate your time and attendance. And we'll see you at the next forthcoming meeting, whenever that will be. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.